the soft toy Plushy handbag workshop. And I have today with me my friend Hayley, my glamorous assistant.
Hello. I am still behind the computer just for a minute more.
That's all right. So today we are going to turn a soft toy into a handbag. So some of you I know have prepped for this already, and you might already have a soft toy with you. Oh, I'm just gonna check I can view the comments here. Amazing. Oh, someone's saying cute there. Thank you very much. Yes. So hopefully you have a soft toy victim with you. And I should introduce myself. My name is Jessica Corlett. As you can probably tell by my accent, I am not from the States. I am in London, in England, where it is currently early evening. So good morning if you're in the Bay Area, and good afternoon if you're in New York, and to everybody in Europe that's watching, good evening. And yes, I'm just going to jump straight into what we're doing. So first up, I believe Hayley has been very clever and has created a poll because... yes. So hopefully you can all see a poll somewhere because I have yet to decide which victim I am going to use today. So we have three options, and I would like you guys to vote on which of my victims you want me to turn into a bag during this workshop. So we have not the teddy bear. The teddy bear is my example. He's already been turned into a bag. I'll talk to you about him in a minute. Okay, the three options for demo victims are Big Pig, which is here. He's kind of long and flat and kind of nice and floppy. And I think he would make a very nice, like, crossbody bag with a zip down the back. So that's Big Pig. He's got an awfully cute face. Then we have Little Pig, who is kind of more of your sort of typical upright teddy bear kind of shape. I can see Big Piggy's getting some love already. Hi, Alice. Hello. And then last option is Tiny Unicorn, which is quite small. If I hold them up here, more of like a little tiny purse or mini handbag. Tiny Unicorn is a good example of an animal that has four legs going downwards, because typically with soft toys, you're either going to get a soft toy that's upright, like a teddy bear, or you're going to get one that's got four legs all pointing downwards. Now, Big Piggy's kind of somewhere in between because he's kind of floppy. So he can sort of hang like that, but he also kind of sits up rather nicely and looks very dodgy if his tail is pointing forwards, as I discovered when I was a child. Haha. Right. Floppy. Yes, he's a floppy boy. Anyway, okay, right. If you haven't voted already, jump in now. We've got the options are Big Piggy, Little Piggy, and Tiny Unicorn. Hopefully one of those tickles all your fancy. And while you're voting, I'm going to show you my example.
Ooh, this is what we have so far.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Yeah. You know what? I actually probably would have put money on everyone voting for Big Pig. Okay. I think we're going to go with Mr. Big Pig then in that case. That is an overwhelming majority so far. Amazing. I love this. That was good fun. Okay. Now I'm just going to explain to you about the little teddy bear I've done already, which is my example. Now this teddy was a workshop I did for the Tomei Sewing Bee last year, which is another group I run, which is it's an online dressmaking, like Lolita and J Fashion and Pretty Vintage events club. So we're a Facebook sewing community, but our thing is that we're all about having events. We're all about having online workshops, and then before the pandemic, I did in-person workshops in London. There is a link for that. I'm sure we can share it at some point during this, so look out for that. But that's the group I run that's on Facebook, and it's called the Tomei Sewing Bee. And it's an events group for workshops. And in previous workshop, we did this last year during lockdown. This is a good lockdown workshop because most people have access to a soft toy. So I'll talk you through what it is. So basically, we have typical little soft toy. This one I made a little collar for. I'm just going to take his little collar off so you can just see what's going on here. So basically, from the front, it's just your typical soft toy. Then we have there's two elements to turning a soft toy into a bag. You need a handle and you need a little kind of opening. So this teddy bear, I've got the center back seam opened up, little zip in there, and then there's a little pocket of lining in there so we can keep some stuff in there. And in order to put that in, I had to take a little bit of his stuffing out to make room for whatever I was going to put in there. And he's got a detachable strap, this one. So rather than sewing the whole strap on, what I actually did is I've just done, I don't know if you can see on there, I'll hold it up. There's like little loops, little like hanging loops. Those could be ribbon or mine are leather because I had some leather in the right color, but he's got little hanging loops on him to attach a detachable strap onto. And there's a few different ways you can do a strap for this, and I'll talk about that later on. But first of all, I think let's dive in and get cracking. So I want to know from you guys, where are you in the world and what victim have you got with you today? So please type that in the comments and let us know which country you're in and what victim you've got.
All right, I'm going to swap my audio and move over to the sewing room. Oh, God. Too many cameras.
While we're doing that, it's victim time, I'm afraid. We're going to start opening. The first thing to do is to start opening up, dissecting your soft toy. So I would say probably for the overwhelming majority of people, you'll open up your center back seam. What you're open to be. Most soft toys have a seam down the center back. So if you've got an upright toy, like my teddy bear, you can, the opening for him is vertical up and down his back seam. Obviously, for this one, I'm going to do the same. I'm kind of imagining he's going to hang like that, like kind of like a little crossbody bag like that. So I'm going to open up the center back seam for him. Right, what are people saying? We've got Bay Area, a Bay Area babe, and the Bay Area bunny. Oh, I don't know what a Bay Area bunny is. Is that a special soft toy? We've got some from Los Angeles with a sheep. Love it. And who else have we got? We've got some people watching, some people taking notes. I love it. Yes, please do take notes. We'll try and make this as entertaining as possible. Or someone said they want to make a backpack with a big teddy bear someday. That is a great idea. Great idea, definitely. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on, backpack straps. What have you got there, Hayley?
This is like a little flat penguin. He's very flat.
He is super cute. What's your plan for opening him up? Because I can see you don't really have a center back seam. How are you going to envisage him working as a bag?
I'm going to put one up here so that he can like lay kind of like this on me with like a strap here under his arms.
Ah, yes.
So it's kind of like underneath his mouth.
So show me that again. Where's the opening going to be? On his tummy. Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, that's a different way of doing it. I like it. Okay. Now, I don't know if anyone else is going to find this, but when you start taking apart soft toys, you often realize how badly made soft toys are. Because this is like, I just did one unpick and literally my whole little piggies come apart straight away. We discover all kinds of crazy things going on at this point. Just be careful as you're opening it up, because obviously you don't want to cut through something that you don't want to cut through. Is this sewn? I'm finding some meltedness going on here. Oh, but there is, there is stitching as well, I think. There we go. Oh, wow. Oh, it almost looks like my one's been melted together in places. That is very weird. Is this a technique I've not heard of before? Oh, no, there is stitching. There is stitching. They've obviously, like, for this one, because it's a sort of synthetic fur, they've obviously, like, melted the seam allowances to stop it from fraying.
Oh, yeah. And then also, like, to keep if it's fluffy, maybe to keep the pile down.
Yeah. Okay. Right. There we go. Right. I have a nice, oh, poor thing. This is so vicious. This was a lovely gift from my mother when I was about 12 years old. Sorry, Mum. I still love it. I love it so much, I'm going to turn it into a bag. I apologize. I have, people that know me know I have a bit of a soft spot for pigs. Right. So, okay, I got my opening. I'm happy with that. I'm not going to
brain surgery.
I'm not going to go any further down because I think I'm going to get into a problem with it all being a bit melted. Yeah. Okay. We're going to go with that as an opening. Right. So, 2 things to think about at this stage. So we're going to need, there's 2 things we need to think about at this stage. And that is, what are we going to do as a handle and how are we going to attach it? And making our pocket to go inside, and we've also got to attach zip. So the reason I bring up the handle now, because you'd be tempted to think of the handle as a later stage thing, but depending on how you're going to attach the handle, you might want to start prepping that now. So I think I'm going to do for this one, what am I going to do? I've got a few handle options. Am I going to do ribbon? Ribbon? Or I feel like I want something bulkier than a ribbon. I think I might do a fabric handle for mine. And I think if you decide you're doing a ribbon, you might want to like sew your ribbon in now into like either edge of your opening. Or if you're doing a fabric handle, I'm going to do a fabric handle and I'm going to sew it on afterwards because I'm going to do a padded handle, I think, for this one because it's quite cute. And I think a nice chubby handle would be really nice. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump into doing my pocket to go inside. Now, I like to prep the pocket first of all so that it's ready, but you're actually going to sew the zip in before you put the pocket in. In terms of fastenings, you've got a few options. You can either open and close it with a zip, or if you've maybe got something very small, you might want to just use a popper or something instead. For this guy, I'm going to use a nice zip on his back. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to measure out how big I want my pocket to be. So I'm looking at 11
big pink fabric so that his insides can be like guts.
Very gruesome. Is it kind of going to look like his mouth is opening?
Yeah, although right now, because he's so flat, it kind of looks just like a brain.
Okay, so measure how big your pocket needs to be. Basically, you're going to make just a simple kind of rectangular kind of pocket. So use a tape measure how long your opening is, and then measure how deep you want your pocket to be. So at this point, you want to reach your tape measure down inside.
Kind of tapers.
Mine is looking like about 8 centimeters. And what you can also do is you don't have to have just like a straight rectangular pocket. You can actually, like, if I hold my piggy like that, you can actually like broader at his bottom. You can actually do a shape pocket.
I'm gonna actually pattern this.
Piece of paper. Okay, piece of paper for my pocket. So I'm going to do. I'm just going to make a pocket pattern. Depending on what you're doing, you might not need to do this, but I'm just going to do one just so you can kind of all see roughly what I'm thinking. And then I said, oh, 11 doesn't look like very much. 11, 9.
Okay, so 7 is 3.5. Half inch seam allowance, so we're going to call that 8. Divided by 2 is 4 inches. Okay, and then I said I want this guy to be 9 inches long. So down here, 6 inches.
Okay. To show you guys what I'm thinking for this pig. As I said, I didn't before this workshop, I didn't know which of these 3 toys I was going to do. So I'm kind of deciding what to do with this pig as we go along. Now, because I'm just sort of holding him on sideways so you can see. The openings up here. Because my pig has a fatter bottom than up by his shoulders, I've decided to actually make the pocket a bit wider at the bottom end. So mine's, there you go, you kind of can see there. You get an idea of what I'm thinking there? To maximize on the space, I've just kind of taken it down a bit here. And I think that means, I mean, arguably I could go further down into his body. The opening's only up here. But I'm hoping that that means that actually, if he sits up, it'll still kind of fit in quite nicely. Yeah. What are you doing?
Oh, okay. That was loud.
Okay, that's my pocket pattern. Right, I'm gonna cut out my pocket fabric. I have going to see which one I like. I think this here is some really lovely pink strips in here. I think I will probably use this to make the strap because it's a very good colour match. And it's a lovely I think that would be really nice. And I'm not sure.
Great.
Lining, I'm going to use this polka dot because it's the same colour of pink, but like even darker. And I think it'll show up quite nicely. It will help you guys be able to see what I'm doing, hopefully. Okay. Right. Okay, so I'm going to cut out my pocket pattern. Because my pocket pattern has a straight edge, I can cut it out on a fold. So I'm going to do that. When you're cutting out fabric, cut close to the corner of your piece of fabric to minimize waste. Does anyone else I always see YouTubers and they cut stuff out right in the middle of their fabric. Someone else find that you just sit and go, no, what are you doing?
I mean, they are a lot of the times when I see craft people like that, I'm just like, you don't sew regularly.
You really sew?
I think it's more aesthetic, maybe, looks nice that they're cutting in the middle, but I'm just like, stop yourself.
Well, anyway, as you can see, I'm cutting out nice and close to the edge of my fabric to minimize waste because I am one of those people that uses up every little scrap of fabrics.
Couldn't find my rotary cutter for a second.
Right. I've pinned my pattern. Hello. Hi. You going to come say hi? No, not yet. Maybe in a minute. So I am cutting this out with a little bit of seam allowance. I'm just eyeballing the seam allowance because we're not making a fitted garment, so we don't have to be crazy accurate in measurements. The only thing that's really important here is making sure that the opening is going to be the right size for the opening on the soft toy.
I definitely put seam allowance on my pattern because I'm obsessive.
Oh, very organized. Oh, but you do a lot of professional sewing, don't you, Hayley? You
I have different seam allowances for different projects, so I feel like I can't just be arbitrary unless I know what I'm doing, so.
Right. So I have folded, so this is my pocket piece here, cut out. I'm going to fold it in half. And I am actually just, because it's a pocket, the pattern wants to be on the inside. You can see, I don't know if you can see there, this is the cute little polka dot pink that I've got here. So remember that when you're making up the pocket, the pattern's going to be on the inside of the pocket because it's the inside that's going to be visible when we open up our soft toy. And I am just actually finger pressing the open edge. I'm just finger pressing the seam allowance on the open edge. because then sew up either end of the pocket, that will get sewn open.
I want to turn my iron on, actually. I'm thinking about it.
That's what I forgot to set up. I forgot to set up an iron. But I think okay. Okay. Up comes the sewing machine. My beast of a sewing machine. There we are. Okay. So this is my pocket all pinned here. So the bottom is the folded edge. These bits here at the top where you can see the pattern, I've just folded the open edge seam allowance over. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to sew either side of the pocket to turn it into a little pouch. And because I folded over that open edge, when I sew it, that will get folded in an open way. Oh, you can't get to your food, can you? Sorry. Okay. For your delight, here is the cat. Come on. There you are. Right, that would be my Norwegian forest cat. She has, I have the most ridiculous high-tech cat feeders that open and close. But they don't work if they're too close to other electronics. And I promised her cat feeder next. Yeah, yes, everyone's very excited about the cat. I love you.
You knew that would happen.
Hang on.
We did discuss that beforehand. Just trying to like clear enough stuff off the floor so I don't die on the way to the sewing machine. You know, it's con season, so everything is of course just a disaster area in here.
Well, I don't mind admitting the bit behind shot is very tidy. The rest of this room looks like a bomb. That's just social media and like the internet for you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The magic of social media. It looks perfect in here. Everything's great. Okay. All right, firing up the industrial.
I will take a photo of my setup after this. Every time I do one of these workshops, I always share a photograph of like what the other side looks like, just so that everyone can see. So I'll put that up on my Instagram at some point. So if anyone wants to follow me on Instagram, my handle is in my title here. So it's at Jessica_Flapjack. Flapjack is spelt without a K.
Yeah, Lilia's got the links, so I'll have her drop those.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
I was able to give those to her.
Oh, thank you so much. Right.
So are we just sewing the bag up essentially and then leaving the opening?
Yeah. We're
Okay.
making the pocket that's going to go in.
Got it. I'm on it.
Right. Okay. Where's my pin cushion? Here's my pin cushion. Okay, right. Here we are. So there I have one finished little pocket to go into my piggy. And I've actually got the edges folded over so that it's all ready to go in straight as it is. Now, I'll be honest, because I'm using a zip, I like to machine the zip in, but then the pocket I put in by hand. Just because I find it's easier, because I think trying to get inside a teddy bear, it's also got a zip in there. Under a machine, it's quite complicated. I'm sure some of you are absolute pros and you'll be completely fearless about it, but I'm going to hand sew in the pocket, but I am going to machine in the zip. My pocket's done. This is my pocket all finished now. So I can put that to one side so that it's ready to put in later. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew in the zip into my piggy. Right, let's see what we've got here. I'll move my sewing machine out of the way just for a second so you can see what I'm doing with my hands. Okay, I looked at a few zips earlier on. Which one do I like the look of? This one here is actually the best colour match, but it's got quite a dramatic metal zip. So I think I'm probably going to ignore that one and ignore the white because that was looked out for Mr. Unicorn. And we will go with this pale pink one, which is, it's a bit of a bright pink. You can see it's not quite a perfect color match, but he's fluffy. I don't think it's going to be that visible. Some people I know when they're sewing are very, very like perfect about making sure that, you know, your thread's always the perfect color match. Your zip is always the perfect color match. Particularly for me, when it comes to zips, I'm very relaxed about zip colors. I prefer to just use what I've got. And I find that more often than not, zips are quite hidden. Now this zip is actually a little bit long. It's quite a bit longer than I need. I'm not going to cut it off. I'm just going to tuck some of it inside later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew on one side of the zip. I'm going to try my best to explain this as best I can, because I know some people find sewing in zips very scary. Yes, someone said, Null no more. Null no more is saying, yes, I need to learn the mystery of zippers. Okay, well, this is, I think, a bit more, I think this is easier than putting a zip into a dress or something, because we're just gonna whack the zip in, if you can use that as a term. I don't think this is particularly difficult, so it should be okay. The main thing that you need to think about with zips is throw it around. So what I suggest you do is put your zip on your teddy in the way up you want it to be. And then I'm going to sew this side of the zip is going to sew onto this side of the opening seam allowance. So I'm going to open up my zip and I'm going to flip it so that I'm on this side of the opening. There you go. There's. So I've just flipped the zip over. So the zip is now facing towards the fur of the teddy.
Thank you.
And what I'm going to do is I'm now looking at where the little top bit of the opening is. I'm just going to pin one side on. Good me, this boy's fluffy.
I'm going to real quick probably close this seam a little bit, like kind of back tack these edges, because I don't think it's sewn very well. I think it's going to keep popping open if I don't.
Yeah, it's surprising how, like, a lot of soft toes aren't very well sewn. You may notice I'm actually just giving my pig a haircut quickly because there's so much fluff in his seam allowance. I'm just trimming away a little bit of the fluff that's on the seam allowance. Just a little. I'm not going too crazy because obviously I don't want to trim away any of the fluff that's going to be visible, but just to make it a little bit easier for me to sew on the zip, I'm just giving him a little haircut.
Someone needs the orientation of the zipper.
Hang on. Okay, let me do it again. Let me finish I'm just giving him a quick piggy haircuts happening. Piggy haircut. I do quite a few fur workshops, and we do talk about giving things haircuts quite a lot.
I know, you got to get a pair of clippers that don't suck.
I'm just using some tiny scissors that I've got just to trim out a bit of this seam allowance. Right, okay. This is now a much cleaner opening. I'm just going to hold that up and show you guys. So I've just trimmed away a little bit of the fluff because my one's a very fluffy piggy. Depending on what soft toy you have, you may not need to use because mine's very fluffy. I've trimmed away a little bit first. So I've now got a nice clean opening that's going to be much easier to sew. So opening my piggy that way. There's the opening that you guys can see. Pay attention. This is how you orientate the zip. So first of all, you can see which side, look at which side is the top of the zip. So it's going to be the side that's got the little pull bit on. So the side that's got the pulley bit on it, that's the top of your zip. So you want to make sure the top of your zip is facing outwards towards you. And I'm going to have the top of the pull next to his neck. So my zip is it's gonna zip up towards his neck when he's got it on. Now you've all got slightly different toys. Hayley, have you got your zip there? Do you want to just show us how you're planning on orientating your zip? Yeah.
Okay. Decisions. Probably this way.
Left to right.
That's good. Probably.
Yeah. Because yours is just hanging down and it's like a horizontal zip.
Yep.
You can kind of go both ways.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
So I've got my zip positioned on my pig's back. My little pull is up at the top near his neck, and it's facing up. The zip is facing upwards towards me, which is the way I want it to be when it's sewn in. But in order to sew it in, I'm going to have to turn it upside down. So first thing I'm going to do is going to open up my zip. We're only going to sew on one half of the zip. This half of the zip you don't need to worry about at all. We're only going to work on one half of the zip to start off with. So I've got it facing upwards. I'm then going to turn it over so the zip is now facing downwards, and I'm going to sew it onto that side of the seam allowance. So this is the where I'm sitting, it's the right hand side of my zip, and I'm sewing it onto the right hand side of the pig as I'm looking at it.
I dropped my zipper.
Turn it over, and then you can just line up the little stopper on your zip. You can just line that up either in line with the opening. It either needs to be in line with the opening or just above it. But the nice thing about this is when we've finished sewing the zip in, if there's like a little gap at the top or the bottom, you know, like where it stops and starts, if there's a little bit of a gap in the body of the teddy bear, we can just do a few hand stitches and close it up. So, you know, don't worry that this has to be sewn in absolutely perfectly, because if there's a little hole afterwards, you can just hand sew it closed very easily. Right, so I've just put in, I've just put in some pins. I'm going to, okay, I'll hold that up to camera to show you guys. Hopefully you can see that. So there is it's just, at the moment, the zip is just pinned onto one side. And my zip is a bit longer than I need, which is great. That's the ideal. I've just left that at the bottom. I'm not going to cut that off. It's going to get hidden inside the pig, hidden behind the pocket. It's going to be completely hidden. So you can leave all that excess on. I mean, if you've got a zip that's like miles too long, you might want to cut it short, but certainly don't worry about
miles too long.
To be honest, like, because I'm always making and reusing things, unless I have to, I just leave zips really long inside things when I'm using a zip. If I'm making a bag and the zip is longer than the opening, I just tend to leave the excess in the extra of the zip inside the bag, because that way, if in the future I need to like remake the bag or I want to take it apart, I've still got like the maximum length of zip still to use. You'll notice I just took off the table attachment that goes with my sewing machine, because we're going to have to get in here and it's going to be a little bit fiddly. Now, you might be doing this by hand, and if you are, you're possibly very sensible, because doing this by hand is going to be much easier than doing it by machine. There's a craft movement in Japan called Zaka, which is all about making bags and things. Yeah, it's like useful items, lots of bags. Oh my God, this is, oh no, look at this pig. This is like pure animal cruelty going on. I feel so bad. Oh no, with the camera angle, poor thing. Okay, I'm really sorry, pig. This is going to really hurt.
This is going to really hurt. Oh no.
It's such a nightmare getting in here. Okay, sorry, pig. I'm so sorry. Okay, there we are. Right. Okay, let's do this. I really hope I sew this right first time, because I don't want to have to redo this. Okay.
Yeah, taking it out would be a bitch.
Okay. Once I get away from his head, it's going to get easier. At the moment, his head is desperately trying to escape from my machine. So pigs are my favorite animal, which is why I have quite a few soft toy pigs. And I'm named after my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother was called Jessie, and she was Scottish, and she was 107 when she died. She was the oldest lady in Scotland at the time. Not lady.
Impressive.
General. She was the oldest person in Scotland at the time when she passed away. Come on, little pig, you can do this. Okay, nearly done. Woo, goodness me. Okay, whew, that was tough. I hope for your sakes that your soft toys are easier to sew than mine are. But as I said, there is definitely a strong argument for doing this by hand because you are going to find this so much easier to do by hand than doing it on a machine. But as I said, the nice thing, as I said before, the nice thing about this is, you know, as long as the zip goes in, if there's like a bit of a gap at the top or a bit of a gap at the bottom, don't worry about it too much. Someone's saying, wow, your mum was a legend. Oh, someone's penguin is getting brain surgery. Oh my gosh. Okay, please, everyone, if you're joining along with this, you have to share your photos on the Discord. I definitely want to see a picture of the penguin that got brain surgery.
I think she's talking about my penguin.
Of course, your penguin. Well, I know there's a few other, yeah, definitely. Everyone do share your finished makes afterwards because we want to see. Right, okay. There you go. So I've got one side sewn. And as I said before, if it's not quite meeting up at the top of the bottom, doesn't matter because we can like stitch those bits up later on. Oh yes, so I was saying my great grandmother was called Jessie. She was 107. But the reason I like pigs is because she used to breed pigs. She had a farm in Scotland and she used to have pigs on her farm. And obviously I only ever knew her when she was an old lady, but everyone used to give her pigs as presents because she had pigs. So her house was full of pig ornaments and pig cuddly toys, and that's why I like pigs so much. Right, okay, so part 2 of zipness. Okay, so I've sewn on one side. So I've sewn it on kind of, it's facing downwards, so it's the wrong side up at the moment. So basically, when it gets zipped up, it'll twist round like that. So what you want to do now is, again, sort of flip it back so that the zip is upwards. So the teeth of the zips are facing the right way up. And then the opposite side, you're going to flip it again. So you're going to face it downwards. So basically what's going to happen is the base of your zip is going to be sort of, I'm going to see if I can show this on camera. So that is the zip upwards. Obviously half of it's already sewn on. That's the zip upwards. So what I'm going to do, this is the side I need to sew on, and I'm sewing it onto this side of the opening. So I'm going to turn it, twist it away from the rest of the zip. So you don't want to twist it towards the zip. You don't want to twist it towards the opening because then you'll end up with a twist in your zip. You want to twist it away. So have it positioned upright, and then you're going to twist it, flip it over by twisting it away from the other half of the zip. I hope that makes sense. And then you are just going to pin the other side on as well. And this is, we're hopefully going to be able to, yeah, we're going to be able to push this round after. So I'm not going to, okay, ignore me. I'll get to that bit later. I was just checking there wasn't something I needed to remind you all to do, but we're going to be fine. So exactly the same as before. Pin it on, and then you're going to sew that one on as well. I am going to sew this one. Which way am I going to sew this one? I think I'm going to have to sew it the other way because ideally when you're sewing a zip on, you want to sew both sides of the zip in the same direction. So if I started at the top, I want to sew from the top to the bottom on one side, and then on the other side of the zip, I want to sew from the top to the bottom on the other side of the zip. And that's just to help it kind of go in evenly, because if you sew one side in one direction and then the other side in the opposite direction, your fabrics, there's a higher chance that it's going to twist, or like that the ends of your zip aren't going to be in line with each other. So ideally, in a perfect world, when you're doing dressmaking, you would sew both sides of the zip from top to bottom, or at least in the same direction. because I have a massive head on this pig, I'm not able to do that. So I start at the top and I'm going to have to sew to the bottom, but it's not, like basically if I try to sew the other one, I'd have to like squeeze the pig in there, and that's going to be very difficult. So I'm gonna risk it, and I'm gonna sew the other side in the opposite direction, and I think it's going to be absolutely fine. As I said, this is quite forgiving. Mine is very forgiving because whilst it's very fluffy, which is a little bit of a nightmare, it does mean that the fluff is going to hold any sins that I commit later on. There you go. So can you see, like, it's so much easier for me on this little tail. This is so cruel. I can't believe how cruel this is. Okay, little tail. Yeah, so I'm sewing him that way, but what I was saying is, like, if I wanted to sew the zip in the same direction, I'd have to like squidge my pig in there, which would be really difficult. So I'm sewing it on this side. So I think this side's going to be a bit easier to get into. Yes, I think it is. Right. Ooh, come on.
Oh my gosh, my husband's cooking and it smells amazing and it's the worst.
Is this, it's it's like it must be about what, 12 o'clock or something near you?
Yeah, it's 12 o'clock and we have friends coming over for lunch at 1.
Oh, nice.
So. Smells delicious. He likes torturing me.
This side is so much easier to sew because the head is towards me. So I'm sewing up to the head rather than trying to get in right next to the head. So that's definitely easier. Okay, in you go. Squidge, squidge, squidge. Okay, the last bit's close to the head. This is where it's the most difficult. Okay, right.
I would say to avoid an invisible zipper personally, because trying to get it that close to the seam allowance with all the fur and the plush would be a nightmare. Yeah,
I'll be honest, like I don't use invisible zippers very often. It kind of depends. Like if you're confident and you've done invisible zippers before, I suspect sewing an invisible zipper into a soft toy that's already made up might be quite fiddly. I think if you were making, like, say you were making the whole thing from like scratch, flat, then I think it probably wouldn't be too difficult. But I suspect trying to sew an invisible zipper into a toy that's already made up might be quite tricky.
I agree with that.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to show you. So that wasn't actually that painful, really. I mean, it was a bit of a squidge, but there you go. So at the moment here you're looking at the back of the zip, and at the bottom here you can sort of see it's twisted open. But what I want is this bit here, this extra. I said about how my zip is too long. This extra bit here is going to tuck inside. So what I can actually do now is, I think actually I might need to put it inside. I'm going to put that little tail end inside and then zip it up. There we go. And now it's tucked inside. Woo! Okay, and let's just test this out. And the same at the top. So at the top, the little ends of my zip at the top, again, you can just tuck those inside and zip it all the way up. And there we go. That is my zipper in. So it's quite good. And obviously, because he's quite fluffy, like, I think all of that's going to sort of disappear, really, when he's being held. I think for the strap, I'm going to do, because I want him to be a crossbody like this, I'm going to do a strap that joins on at the top and the bottom of the zipper. Right. So hopefully yours are looking something like that, and you're able to tuck all your little ends in. So this is what I said about, like, if there's a bit of a gap at the top or the bottom, it doesn't really matter. But what you can do is if you've got a big gap still at the top and the bottom and you want to like stitch that now, you can do, and just close it up at the top and bottom. That's nice and neat. I don't think I'm going to worry because mine actually looks okay. And what I think I'll do is I might just reinforce that a little bit when I sew the lining in. So that's what I'm going to move on to doing now. I'm now going to the lining in. That looks great.
I just like that he's got this like weird scalloped chub situation. It just looks hilarious.
I think once you've got loads of things in him, it'll be fine. He's so cute. I like it. And I do like that it kind of is like a mouth. It is going to look like his mouth's open and you're putting things in his mouth when you put stuff in.
Yep.
Okay. Right. So that is my zipper done. That's all my machine sewing done. There's actually a huge amount of sewing in this, really. Like, this could very easily be done by hand. And as I said, I think in some cases it might actually be easier to do a lot of this by hand than using a machine. So now I've got my pocket. So, you know, I said like the pattern bit is on the inside. So this long bit, this wider bit of the pocket here is going at his bottom end because his bottom's bigger than the top. Now, my boy's very floppy. He was a very floppy pig to start. So I don't actually need to take any stuffing out of him. But depending on what yours is like, chances are you probably are going to have to remove some stuffing. So certainly most of your normal soft toys are much firmer stuffed. So possibly take a bit of stuffing out. And then I'm literally just going to tuck my pocket in. And it should be the right size for the opening. But again, if it isn't, doesn't really matter. We can just close. You know, if you find that your pocket's a little bit bigger than your zip opening or a little bit smaller than your big zip opening, it doesn't really matter. Just sew it in and then you can just close it up a bit at each end if there's extra. Or if it's longer, sew it in anyway, and it just means you'll have a slightly deeper pocket. So very forgiving, very, very forgiving, this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, the reason why I pre-folded the edges of the pocket is just because it's now going to make it easier to put this in. I've already got that nice fold. So I'll flip this around and just show you close to camera.
Blah.
So there's my zip. Oh, we're gutting a penguin.
Mostly because I took this tag off and I think I need to like quickly tack that seam. Oh. So I think I'm gonna have to unstuff them and restuff them real quick.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I was like, this tag's ugly. I don't want to have that on here.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I might put the D-rings for mine. I might stick them in the seam allowance too. So.
Yes, D-rings is a really good idea. So at this stage, basically, when we sew the pocket in, it's going to close our opening into the body. So if there's any other sewing that you want to attach into the pig or into the toy, like so say if you're adding in a strap or you're adding in some D-rings or something and you want to be able to get inside your stuffed toy while you put it on, you want to make sure you sew that on now. Do that sewing now, because when we put the pocket in, that is effectively going to close our access to the soft toy. But the strap I'm planning for this one, I'm going to attach externally. So I don't need to worry about attaching the strap in it.
All right, D-rings here.
This is good. I was going to talk about D-rings. So maybe, Hayley, can you, when you're ready, can you explain to us what you're going to do with D-rings? Because then you can
right. So I think that would be really cute to have the strap kind of hook underneath his little flippers. So I'm going to open up these seams under his flippers and then use this webbing so that I can just create a little loop and stitch that in so that this just hangs there. And then later I can like get a little hook to make my strap. I don't buy a hook today because I wasn't thinking about it, but that's probably going to be my plan. So I'm going to quickly open this up. That's why I took out so much fluff.
Yeah. Sounds good. Are you putting like a little loop of ribbon onto the D-ring? And
yeah, I've got some webbing here.
Sewing the ribbon into the opening.
Yep, that's what my plan is. So I'm going to stick it in his little underarms.
Perfection.
I'm going to say that you should use a zipper foot for when you do that because the D-rings will be like, you want to get really close to the D-ring, so you need to use a zipper foot.
Oh, that's a really good tip. Yeah.
Ah, too much fluff on the table. Come, penguin, let us go to the surgery.
I am just pinning in my lining. And I'm basically what I'm doing is I'm pinning the lining onto the zip that I've sewn in on the inside. So I've just pinned it. I'll just hold it up and show you guys. So there, I don't know how you can see that, but basically I have, whoop, there we are. So there's the inside of my zip. So this is, if it's closed, all of that's hidden. This is the inside of my zip, and I've just pinned my lining onto the zip. And there's a bit of a gap at the top and the bottom. I'm not worried about that because I'll close that up as I'm doing the hand sewing. The important bit is to kind of get it sort of evenly positioned on opposite sides of the opening. Yeah, so now I'm going to just hand sew that in while we all have a nice chatter. And because this is a little bit of hand sewing, if anyone has any like questions about what we're doing or just any other general questions that you want to ask about life, the world, and everything, feel free to pop them in the chat, and we'll see if we can have a little bit of a Q&A while we're doing this. And I will try and sew quite quickly. If you're trying to follow along, please don't worry, because I'm kind of rattling through this a little bit because I want to get a picture. Does the pig have a name? No. It's called, actually, you know what? That's a really good question. I may have given it a name when I was 12, but that was a very long time ago. I can't remember. I think it's probably just called Floppy Pig. Someone's suggesting Rupert. Rupert is an excellent name, but I already have a teddy bear called Rupert. No. Oh, no. My bear's called Edward. Okay, the pig. Oh, but I think it's a girl pig, though, because it's got a pink bow. Not that boys can't wear pink bows. Don't start me on that argument, but just as a 12-year-old, I always imagined this was a female pig. So
okay, before I sew this in, this is what I'm doing here. Putting these guys underneath his little arms. So I've just opened the seam up. I've unstuffed it so I have a chance to get to the seam, and I'm going to just tack this back down.
Very neat. So you can literally you're just going to flip it inside out and sew it from the inside, yeah?
Yep, that's my plan. I mean, you could hand sew it, but I think because it's going to bear weight, I think I would rather machine it down.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
I just got to figure out which zipper foot I want to use. For the left, the righty. You want the righty. Here's the righty. Where's the zipper foot? Here it is. Oh, come on. Come on, machine. Got little bits of fluff everywhere. What's funny is I have another bear that's kind of got the same texture, and he's like severely understuffed, so I'm thinking I might just take some of this.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Always save the spare stuffing. Always save the spare stuffing because you can use it for other things. I just have a big bag of stuffing, and I just am constantly like adding bits to it for projects. I've actually got some wadding that I'm going to use to make the strap for this pig in a minute. So I am just literally sewing this in just with like a little, I call it an overstitch. So I'm doing a stitch through the zip and then catching the folded edge of the opening of my pocket as I go along, just catching it in, and it's quite quick.
One side down.
Well done.
Gotta get the other side, and then I gotta figure out how we're supposed to do the. Oh, I found. You know how like when they stuff these, they have to like hand close them.
Yes.
I found where they did that, and it's really manky, so I think I'm also going to stitch that shut.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, they normally, because they're just mass producing them, it's normally just like
Yeah, it's not a very
2
good
or
fit.
3
And I'm
big
like, oh, look, I see you. So since I've already got it opened, and we're already doing surgery, I can make it look not like trash. That is one of the things, like, whenever I get a plushie, I'm always like, oh, where did they close it? Can I make it look better than that?
I'll tell you guys about the teddy bear I made. This one here. So when I was doing this for a workshop, so we did soft toy handbags as a workshop for the Otome Sewing Bee. I'm getting to sit up behind the pick. There we go. And the following week, we were doing a workshop that was for sailor collars, detachable sailor collars. So that's why you may have noticed earlier the teddy bear had a little sailor collar. Here we go. Here's this little sailor collar here. I made. And when I was making the sailor collar, because I knew he would have a collar attached to him, and this is actually good to keep in mind, because if you're doing like if you imagine like the most famous sort of toy Lolita bag is obviously Usakuma. If you're doing an Usakuma style bag, Usakuma always has like a kind of collar type thing, doesn't she? So you just need to keep that in mind when you think about where your straps are going to go, your bag handles. Because, for example, if you sew these straps onto the shoulders, they might then get in the way of the collar that your teddy bear's going to wear. So that's something to think about. So with this bear, because I knew he was going to be wearing a sailor collar, I actually sewed the straps, or the attachment for the straps. So much like Hayley's been doing her loops with D-rings, I've got a similar sort of thing here. So I basically sewn loops onto there. Mine are just little leather loops. And I actually sewed them into the seam that makes up his neck. So that way, so that strap attaches to his neck rather than to his shoulders. And that means he can still wear his collar underneath the strap without the strap getting in the way of the collar. So that's something to keep in mind if you're wanting to do something a bit like an Usakuma that's going to have a pretty collar to wear later on. Okay, I've nearly finished one side of my little hand sewn bag. And when you get, because you've got your needle and thread and your hand sewing this lining, when you get to the top of the lining, you can now actually use your needle and thread and tidy up the sort of opening at the top if you want to. So if it's gaping a little bit open, you can just sort of close that up while you're up there. Or you can do it afterwards. It's up to you. You might find it easier to just focus on sewing in the lining and then thinking about the next step, you know, tidying up the top and the bottom of your zip afterwards. Right. Okay, because I've got one side sewn, I think it's going to be really quick. The other side.
Great, that's pretty good.
I'll tell you guys what other workshops I've got coming up, because I know some of you guys really love these sorts of join along workshop type experiences. So as I said, I run the Otome Sewing Bee at the moment. So I was saying I feel too guilty to open up a plushie. Just overcome that guilt. Just go for it. Think about how much more life and love your plushie is going to get when it actually gets to come with you as a bag. So workshops for the Otome. So at the moment, because we are still in a pandemic, the Otome Sewing Bee group, we are currently doing a event every Sunday. It is at 4 p.m. is 8 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So you have to set your alarm clock, or feel free to turn up early, because it always goes on for 2 hours. So it's get up and come with a cup of coffee if you're in Bay Area. And I think it's 12. Is it? If it's no, if it's 8 in Pacific Daylight Time, it's 11 Yeah, 11 in Eastern Daylight Time. So that is every Sunday. And at the moment, we're doing bring your own project sessions. So just rock up and chat and so whatever you want to. But
All right.
some workshops lined up for later on in the summer. So the last Sunday in June, we're doing a workshop where we learn how to turn a men's shirt into a really pretty Peter Pan collared blouse. We've got a fantastic tutorial for that we're going to be doing. I wasn't
quite paying attention when you did what you did, but I have a proposal for how I'm going to do this. Because I've made a couple of purses professionally. It's been a very long time though, so I forgot this is a thing. But I'm going to leave the bottom of this lining open just like a gap. I'm going to machine this in, and then I'm going to turn it right side out and then top stitch, like edge stitch the seam allowance closed.
Yeah, I think that would be the very sensible professional machine way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, since the zipper is exposed and it's pretty easy to get to.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm going to do. So
I think that's a very good plan. Because you've got quite a nice wide opening as well, haven't you?
Yeah. But yeah, if you've got the zipper like exposed like this, you can just sew. So I'm going to show it just so people can see. Here's my bag. I've just opened this little like gap in the bottom here, which is how I'm going to turn this right side out at the end. You can just sew these guys to each other, and as you can see, you're going to just shove it in there and then just close it. So I think that's going to work for me. We're going to try it. I haven't done this in a long time, so we'll see if I fail miserably or not.
I have complete faith in you, Hayley. I think it's going to work perfectly, just like you described. There's definitely a plus to doing one that's easier to get into. And your fabric's like a sort of, is it like a kind of fleecy kind of velour-y fabric?
Sorry, say that again?
What's your fabric? Is it like a fleecy kind of velour fabric?
It's just like a cotton.
Oh
no! Are you talking about the plushy or the
plushy? The plushy.
Oh, plushy. Yeah, he's like kind of like a very low pile, not a very soft. Very soft, fluffy boy, but not like your pig, who is beautiful and wonderful and fluffy.
And slightly fiddly to sew. Okay. I have just, whilst I was on it, just to wrap up, I was talking about the Atomo Sewing Bee. So end of June, we're doing this turn a men's shirt into a pretty Peter Pan collar blouse. Then in July, we are going to have a month of headwear workshops. We're going to do those. Like fabric bonnets, and we're also doing little hats that look like pies, because we found a picture and we were like, we want to make pie hats, so we're doing a pie hat workshop. Lots of nice stuff, if anyone wants to come to any of those. Right. Oh, someone's saying they're going to try. Thank you. Strawberry Jam Donuts is the best name ever. Amazing. I'm laughing because I have a reputation for really liking jam. I have a lot of like strawberries and jam themed dresses and accessories. I love strawberry jam, to the point that every time my friends see something with strawberry jam on it, they're like, Jessica, you need this. I'm like, yes, I do. Okay. Right. Little piggy. Okay. So my piggy I'm going to show you. So I've just hand stitched in his little pockety pouch. And I can kind of like, there's a bit of a hole at the top and a bit of a hole at the bottom that I can, so what I could do is I could just get a needle and thread again and just kind of go in there and do like a little ladder and close those up. But it's not very visible at the moment. So now the next thing we need to do is, so what you need to make sure you've got is make sure I nearly buried my zipper pull, but because there's a little gap, I can still pull it out. So make sure your zipper's on the top side, and I can zip him up. And that is the pocket done. How am I doing time-wise? Still got about 20 minutes? No, 25 minutes, I think. We're doing well for time. Okay, so there's my little pocket, all done, zipper closed. My pig could actually just be a clutch bag right now, and he would make a lovely little, I could just take him to a meetup like that, and he could look after mobile phone for me. But I'm going to put a strap on him. Okay, so I'm going to jump into talking about doing the strap. So there's a few, loads of different ideas for ways that you can do a strap. I'm just going to grab my strap box. So different options are, you could use a piece of ribbon as a strap. I've got some very nice sort of like ballet pink ribbon here that would work quite nicely, but quite because he's a chunky boy. So you can use the ribbons. You can make like a ribbon out of fabric to use it as strap. You can also, what's really nice is you could use some beads or something. So you sometimes see like the lovely little like tiny handbags.
This is going to look so horrible.
No, it won't. It's gonna.
No, I just mean just this in between stage. It's just like his insides are.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah, there's quite the sort of like yeah. We're just looking at a load of penguin guts at the moment on your camera. But the other thing I was going to say as an idea is you could use some pearls and make like a little pearl kind of strap. I'd looked these out because I was actually thinking the little unicorn that I had. I did think that like making a little pearl strap for the unicorn quite cute. You can actually do quite a small one would be nice, like a little handle, or go with a long one for the crossbody. But
right. This is the thing I forgot, in case anybody's trying to do it the way I'm trying to do it. I had to take all the stuffing out. So you have to flip it right side out through the hole. So Penguin is completely stuffed into his own insides at the moment.
Oh. So you can use pearls, some like thread some pearls onto a chain and use that as a strap. That'd be really pretty. I've seen a lovely DIY pattern for a cinema doll bag. It was in one of the GLBs, and you made like a little cinema doll cat head, and then they made a little pearl chain for that, and it just went perfectly with the AP print. So pearls would be a nice idea. I looked out a load of loose pearls as well, so I wasn't sure if I was going to do that. So lovely pearl strap would be beautiful, or you can use a ribbon. Or as I was saying before, with the teddy bear, this teddy actually has a detachable chain on it. It's one of these like metal chains that's like, I think this is called like a snake chain. I'm not sure. But this actually came with another bag that I own, and it's got little lobster clasps. Whoop, there we go, little lobster clasps on either end. So you can, like Hayley's doing, or like I did on the teddy bear, you can just sew some loops onto your soft toy, and then you can use one of these detachable chains to just clip onto it. And if you don't already have one like this, you can either make one, like maybe with pearls, and put some like lobster clasps or like jewelry findings on the ends. Or you can actually buy these really cheaply on AliExpress. You can get these for like a couple of pounds or a couple of dollars on AliExpress. And when I did this workshop before, we all went on AliExpress and did a bit of a search. And there's actually some beautiful like detachable chains for handbags. It's something that's actually quite easy to get hold of on eBay and AliExpress, because I think lots of the times if your bag handle breaks, people just want to be able to buy a replacement.
Right. Just so you can see the magic happen.
We're turning him inside out.
Right side out now.
Right side out. So this is going to be like a full-on, it's like almost like a double flip, because you've got to turn him the right way around.
Yeah, and we got to stuff him. We got to restuff him through the hole now, which is going to be hilarious. And then we got to stuff the lining inside, and then we got to close the lining. But yeah, we got to restuff him now. That's the downside to this.
It works perfectly. You might not need to use all that stuffing, Hayley.
Probably not, but I got to put some back in, otherwise he's going to be rather limp.
Definitely. So you can buy straps like this on AliExpress very, very cheaply. They also did some lovely, they actually had ready-made pearl straps for like, if you wanted like a pearl strap for a crossbody bag, which would actually be kind of lovely for this piggy to have like a big pearl crossbody chain for him, I think. So yeah, if you want to skip a step, you can do that. But what I am going to do, and the last idea I had, because I've seen some examples of this, is because he's a nice squishy, soft toy, I thought it would be nice to make him a squishy handle or bag strap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of this pink silk that I have, and I'm going to make a little strap for the pig. So I want it to be crossbody. So get your tape measure and then literally just use your tape measure to help you work out how long your crossbody needs to be. So if I just stand up, I want him to hang to, I'll just hold him up so you can see, probably about there on the hip. I think that's about right. So that is, on me, that is about 52 inches. 52 inches. So we'll put Piggy down here. And I'm going to cut out strip that's 52 inches. And I'm going to stuff the strip. Now, I'm not going to use loose stuffing because I think it'll be quite lumpy. I'm going to use some wadding that I have. I said 52 inches, didn't I? Can I fit that?
I remember 50 something.
Yeah, 52. I can't fit that acrossways, so I'm going to have to go lengthways. Yes, I see. Because I did not know what I was going to be making today, because you guys chose for me, I have not pre-cut this. 52, 52. Gosh, that looks very long. But it is long. It is going to be long. 52. There we go. Okay, right. Down to here. Do a little nick so I can mark it.
Gonna make sure I stuff his little bill especially.
And how wide do I want my strap to be? I think I want my strap to be about 2 inches wide.
That sounds nice and fluffy.
Yeah, I want it to be a bit. The only do is I'm going to try and do a chubby strap. That's the goal. I'm gonna put a big strip of wadding in it to make it cushiony. And I think this way of doing straps, the idea of doing a padded strap, is very nice if you've got like a toy that has like 4 legs hanging down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't know that I'd do this for, like, if it was a teddy upright, I'm not sure that I'd do this. But for an animal that has 4 legs hanging down, I think a nice chubby handle is really cute. So that's what I'm doing.
I think that's about as much stuffing as I need to do once I get this guy in here. It's really funny because his mouth's really small, but he has like this gaping maw. But yeah, so I think that's a much cleaner finish in terms of, like, you know, so this is now machine sewn and it looks like nice, but it was really nice to baste it by hand for the zipper first.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
But yeah, it came out very cleanly. The only place is a little wonky is the corner of his mouth, but that's okay. I can hand stitch that closed a little more. But I'm going to go back and close that bottom hole. But yeah, get his little guy. I'm just trying to make sure he's like properly stuffed before I close it. Maybe a little bit more on the top of the head. He's still a little flat up there.
Right. Here's my. Okay, so I've cut my big long strip that's going to make up my strap. Sewing machine comes back up again.
Of course, my lining is getting stuck in the fucking zipper. Of course he is. It wouldn't be any other way. Here we go. I need to, like, definitely iron that flatter. It doesn't get so tempted to get stuck up in there. I got stuff your head.
The other thing you can use for a strap is, obviously, you could, like, just cut yourself like a leather strap if you wanted to. I think especially, like, obviously if you're doing if your toy is either like black or brown, it would be very easy to do a leather strap. And actually I save old belts. If I've got an old belt that I don't wear anymore, I often save belts because you can potentially turn a belt into a bag strap very easily. So so my strap's going to be about 2 inches wide. So I've actually cut a piece that's 4.5 inches wide. I'm folding it in half, and then I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance.
Oh my God, somebody ringing the doorbell so violently. All right, I'm going to now press the seam allowance closed since I'm happy with how it's stuffed, and then I'm just going to edge stitch this, guys. So that's what's going to happen.
My sewing machine's having a moment. Why is it having a moment?
Well, because you're trying to do something on camera and it knows and it wants to share with you.
I think so. No, I think it was doing like I think maybe like a tacking stitch or something. I'm not sure. I'd obviously pressed a button by accident. Working fine again now. I've not actually even bothered pinning this because it's just a nice straight line on the grain that I'm sewing. Hopefully it's not too noisy for you guys. It's funny. So every Sunday I do sewing with the Atomic Sewing Bee, and it's really funny how some people's microphones pick up their sewing machines so much louder than others.
I foolishly tried to edge stitch while having this zipper put on, and that was a mistake. That's not gonna work. Don't you love when you try and be like 5 seconds lazy and then it costs you more time? Ugh.
This is such a lovely fabric. This is the kind of fabric that I think you'd make like one of those kind of like vintage slips or nightgowns out of. I think this is some fabric that was part of my granny's sewing stash, if I remember rightly. I think that's where it's come from.
Right. Like I said, I just pressed back the seam allowance and I just edge stitched it. And now it's just going to get stuffed once I pull all the extra fluff off. And make sure that I distribute the stuffing properly as I go in. So there's some on the top and some on the bottom of like where the pouch sits now. All right, and now I'm gonna press this stupid lining back from the zipper because it's getting caught because I sewed it really close to the edge like a smart person. If I had thought about it, I would have given it a little bit more space, but it's in there now and I'm not undoing it.
Well done. So I've sewn my strap. Obviously, at the moment it's inside out, so I've done the classic thing. I've attached a safety pin onto one end. And I'm going to use the safety pin to feed it all the way through the strap. So I always, when I'm doing this, I always pin my safety pins into the seam allowance so that I'm not potentially making a big hole from the safety pin in the like main body of the fabric that's going to be visible. We got some questions here coming in. I do apologize, guys. I'm not managing to keep on top of the questions very well. Oh, we're talking about lexicon differences and sewing terms. Oh, because I said wadding. Oh, right, okay. So wadding is basically the same as quilt batting. I think in the UK we don't have quite the same quilting history and culture that you guys have in the States. But yeah, wadding is the kind of often, I mean, normally people refer to like polyester wadding, the kind of like sheet stuffing that you get, but it's basically the same sort of thing as quilt batting. I'm actually going to use, it is actually quilt batting that I'm using. But yeah, in the UK, we might also refer to this as wadding, I suppose. Right, so I've got, this is actually just some scraps of literally quilt batting. This is the Hobbs heirloom quilt batting. And these are just some bits that I've got. And I'm hoping that there's going to be some nice longish bits that I can use. Because what I was thinking was that I could make a roll of batting and use that to stuff. Because if I just put loose stuffing, like the penguin guts you can see on camera, if I put penguin guts type stuffing into this, I'm probably going to end up with quite a lumpy, bumpy strap, unless it's stuffed really firmly. But even then, you might still end up with a bit of a lumpy, bumpy strap. So that's why I was thinking if I use some leftover quilt batting and then I roll it up, I will then end up with a tube of stuffing, which I think hopefully will work quite nicely. And actually this piece here is quite a big piece, so I'm going to save that because I think that might be useful for something else. But this is like a longer strip. It's not quite as long as my strap, but it's almost as long. So for the sake of using scraps, I think I might just use this. I'm just going to flip it over my shoulder and see how long it is. You see that's long enough for a crossbody. Okay, we're just going to use this to make my strap a few inches smaller.
I think I'm going to pick stitch this stupid zipper back because the lining keeps trying to get into it, which is more work. Hooray.
So what I think I would do ideally now would be I would roll this all up, and I would probably, so I'm going to roll this piece of wadding so that I've got a nice long kind of sausage of wadding or batting. Wadding. I keep saying wadding because this just feels, I think when I was little I would have called this wadding. Batting's very much the term when you talk about quilting. Yeah. So I am going to roll this up, and then I think in a perfect world what I would do is I would get a needle and thread and I would just whip all the way along this. So where it's rolled, you can kind of see where the edge of the roll is. I would just get a long needle and thread and just go whip, 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 like just do big stitches all the way along, just to tack the roll in place. I hope that makes sense. Hopefully it does. Tack the roll in place, hold it in place. I'm not going to do that now because we've only got like less than 10 minutes left. But what I will do, just to show you guys roughly what it's going to look like when it's finished, is I've already rolled it up. So imagine I've whipped this all together. And what I'm going to do, just to illustrate for you guys, is again, I'm going to put the safety pin in the end, and I'm going to thread my sausage of batting through my strap. And then I can just sort of mock up for you guys what the finished piggy with his padded strap will look like. How has anyone been making along with us? If you've been making along with us, please do let us know how you're getting on. Or if anyone's planning a project based on this, tell us, like, now having watched some of this workshop, what are you thinking, like things like strap wise? Have you decided what kind of strap you might want to use?
So I'm doing a little annoying hand sewing thing where I'm stitching some like really small invisible hand stitches right near this thing to hold the lining back, because the stuffing keeps shoving it forward, so it keeps getting caught in the zip. So I want especially right around the zip to make sure that it stays pulled back. So I'm pulling it back and hand stitching it just along the edge. An annoying detail, but I tried to close it like 10 times and I was like, this is annoying.
That's good. That is the thing. Yeah. Hand stitching is your friend. Don't feel like you have to do everything perfectly straight away. You can like make little tweaks as you go along, just like Hayley's doing to make it work. So lots of people are chipping in here. So Mooney Maroon is making a sheep and she's stitching in, hand stitching the zipper. yeah, I think that's a good idea. Definitely hand stitching in the zipper will be a lot easier for a lot of people for this. What else have we got here? So Null No More says she's a quilter and she has lots of long strips of batting left over, which is very true, because when you make a quilt, I've done a fair bit of quilting. When you make a quilt, you make your quilt and then you trim the leftover batting off around the edge afterwards. So you always end up with long strips of batting left over, which, being a waste not, want not kind of crafter, we always want to hold on to. So yeah, this would be a great thing to do with like long leftover strips of batting. And on the subject of long strips of batting, I am just about there with my strap. Someone's taking stickers off boxes. Someone's saying they're definitely going to use the padded strap idea. Yay! Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad it's useful. I think padded straps are going to be quite nice, actually. You know what? I'll tell you what, this padded strap is quite, the batting's very stretchy. Oh, somebody's using Velcro. So yes, thank you for mentioning that, actually, because I didn't talk about that. So obviously I only used a zip in my demonstration, but you can use, feel free to use different kinds of fastenings. So Velcro would be perfect. Or you can do snap fastenings. I call them poppers because that's what my mother called them. But you can, they've got lots of, so snap fastenings, or they're sometimes called press studs as well, I think. Right. Okay. Here is my cushiony strap. It's looking a little bit wrinkly, but I'm not worried about that at all. I'm very pleased with this. It's funny because I thought the batting was shorter than my strap, but the batting has really stretched out. I actually think I could put, God, it looks quite dodgy. Why did I pick this color? Okay. My mind's going to dirty places. I apologize, everyone. So what I can do now is, as I said, I'm just going to sew this on at the end. So what I would do at this point is I would just tuck the seam allowances in, and then I will probably just, sew it onto the little pig. I'm just going to pin it in place now so I can show you guys what the finished bag will look like. But I will just hand sew this in place eventually. Let's just stretch that all out. I'm trying to get the fabric as smooth as possible. I've not done any ironing in this process, obviously, because, just be careful, because my pig is definitely made out of a synthetic fur. So if I went near him with an iron, it would definitely. So just be really careful about ironing, depending on what fabrics you're using. The strap I've got here is a sort of silk kind of fabric, which I could iron. But obviously I haven't been ironing just for the sake of rattling through this tutorial. Okay. A final pin.
Target still has lots of plushies.
Right.
Where else do I get plushies? I just bought a plushie from Target literally yesterday. There's a lot of if you go to conventions, there's a lot of people selling plushies. I got this guy from Daiso. I didn't want to spend an arm and a leg.
There's my little friend ready to come to a meet with me. Yeah. I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm going to need to put together a pig themed coordinate now so that I can take my little friend with me, I think. Yeah. So yeah, that's my little piggy. It's interesting. The position of where the strap is quite key to think about, because he's kind of hanging very much downwards like this. So if I wanted to, I've put one end of the strap right by his bottom, but actually if I move it up to where the end of the zip is, up here, it's just a little bit more upright. So where you position the strap is going to really affect how your animal hangs. So just think about that. Maybe test it out before you commit to the position of the strap, because you don't want to accidentally have him falling over or not sitting up correctly when he's being worn. So yeah, that is a little piggy with a little padded strap. And I think we're probably going to need to wrap up now, because we've come to the end of my 90 minutes. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming and joining us, and for all the lovely comments, which I will watch this through and have a good look at your comments later on and really enjoy reading them all. And Hayley, if you're still there, Hayley, can you just show us the status of your penguin now before you'll say
he's pretty good. I just need to I'm picking back the zipper just so it doesn't pop out. I mean, I might think of tacking the lining in someplace because he does have a tendency to like shove it out of his mouth. So yeah. I'm thinking about that. But otherwise, good to go. He's got a zipper, got his pink guts. And I'm just trying to make sure that his fluff is evenly distributed into his head.
He's gonna be great.
I just think he looks hilarious because like he looks like nice and chill, and then he like opens his maw. He kind of looks like a shark when he does that. It's just so unexpected.
Brilliant. Oh well, thank you so much, Hayley, for being my very glamorous hand assistant. It's always a treat having you with me when I do these workshops. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And we will plonk all my links in the chat again. So if you don't already, please do come and follow me on Instagram at Jessica_Flapjack. And I post stuff every week from craft workshops that I'm running. There's all the links again for you. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, and enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of Ursa Major.
Yep. Up next will be Femme in STEM, which will start at 1. So you guys have a little time to take a quick break and get something to eat, grab a snack, and join us for our next panel. So I will see you guys in a little bit. I'll go over and turn this off.